Hello everyone, welcome to Shailaja and welcome to the PYQ Decoder course. This is Subash. Today we are coming up with a new subject, that is Environment for UPSC Civil Service Examination Prelims 2026. So environment is a key subject where both static as well as current questions are asked in UPSC examination. However, if you see the current trend, shift has been from static portions to the current affairs portion and interlinking of the topics. How this can be known? This can be known by thoroughly analyzing the previous year question papers. We see the static questions which we see from the standard textbook and NCERTs are getting reduced. However, those concepts are crucial to understand the basics of environmental science, the fundamental of environmental science to be applied, in logically deducting the questions that are based on current affairs, that are based on current themes that are in the news with respect to environment. So now we will see what is the proper decoding and analysis of syllabus and previous year question paper in this class, and in the coming classes we'll discuss all the important theme from where questions have come in the last 5-6 years in the environmental section. So chalo, we'll begin. So comprehensively, what we'll do in this class, we'll decode the syllabus and we'll analyze the important themes where questions have been come from in the last 5-6 years in environmental segment. Also, it's very important if you're giving not only civil service but forest service to focus on this environment and science and tech, the two current affairs subjects, to enhance your score and get that 120 plus in the prelims to make sure you are in the list for Indian Forest Service as well. Another important thing why environment becomes important is the examination for civil service also includes forest service, and the topics and subjects of forest service, environment, science and tech, forestry, ecology plays a very important role. Therefore, maximum number of questions also comes in this subject. If you have to be sure to make sure you have cleared the prelims with a huge good margin, then you should be thorough not only with the static subjects where you will get 65 to 70 questions, but still with the environment and science and tech where you will get 30 to 35 questions combined in environment and science and tech. So environment is a important subject where you have in a prelims syllabus mentioned these terminologies, but also in GS3 in the mains paper few of the topics are mentioned from where questions from the prelims do show up. So you have to do a integrated and overall comprehensive study. So we'll see here the important syllabus terms. So this is the official UPSC syllabus. If you map with respect to prelims syllabus, first topic is general issues of environmental ecology. Here all the concepts and terminologies. All the concepts and terminologies will be asked from the environmental concepts and ecology concepts. Next, global biodiversity, biodiversity, global flora, global fauna, all the important acts, schemes, conventions with respect to that, and Indian species. Next, climate change, its mitigation and its adaptation. These are the important themes, syllabus themes mentioned in prelims. My friends. So what about in mains? Mains deals with important topic like conservation of biodiversity, conservation of hotspots, its species, flora, fauna, environmental pollution, and environmental degradation, land degradation, water pollution, all the environmental laws, conservation activities, laws and conservation becomes important themes, okay? And the environmental impact assessment, the recent amendment which is in news with respect to EIA, and disaster management also overlaps with environmental science. So it's a very comprehensive, and you have 3-4 important themes here and 3-4 important themes here. So around 6 to 7 themes are recurrently asked in UPSC, and it holds around 15 to 20 questions every year in UPSC. About 15% of the paper constitutes environmental science, okay? Environment and ecology. Now we'll see the 10-year trend analysis. The 10-year trend analysis of environmental science. So from 2015 to 2017, average 14 questions were asked, and 2018-19 there was a small dip where average 12 questions were asked. Again in 2020 to 2022, 15 questions, 23 and 24 on an average 16-17 questions. In 2025, the previous year, 17 questions were asked. So in the last 5-6 years, on an average, 16 to 17 questions are being asked in environmental science by UPSC. Why it's a very crucial subject? Because this subject serves not only civil service but also Indian Forest Service, and also very dynamic in nature with economy, with environment, with science and tech. Okay, it's a very dynamic in nature, and it plays a crucial role in governance, okay, in society, interlinking all other topics, all other areas and all other subjects. So here what you have to do, only if you are studying NCERT, only if you are going through standard books, that is not enough. For you to have that approach and get all the questions right in environment, you have to link current dynamic topics with statics. And it's not that you have to study all the vast subject and current affairs in news and make 500-600 pages notes. Simply it does not work that way. What you have to do is specifically see the themes where UPSC is asking, okay? They are very simple concepts, very focused concepts, very focused themes. If you are able to decode that, okay, go through in depth in those themes and topics and make note and revise well, that will be sufficient for you to get 80-90% of these questions right, okay? If you are able to do that, and if you are able to generally do all the subjects right, equally good, gist of all, okay, not master of 1 or 2 subjects, but you are good in all the subjects, you have a jack of all the subjects, then you will be able to cover that cutoff of 45-50% in UPSC and score beyond also. So here it becomes important that 17 questions are asked, and 6-7 important themes which I show you in the syllabus, okay, of both prelims and mains are asked every year. Where to see which are the important themes and where are questions coming from? That is through decoding PYQs. That is what we will do in the next 5 to 6 sessions for environment. So this every year 16 to 17 questions have been asked, and the volume of environmental questions has consistently risen, making it the high yielding subject in UPSC. Clear? Next, what are the trend and thematic mapping? If you see from before 2022, okay, this is before 2020 to post 2020. Post 2020. If you see, existing clusters of questions that were asked in the themes were species biology, their habitats, pollution, chemical, their safety, legislations directly with respect to Wildlife Protection Act, Environmental Protection Act, okay, eco-sensitive zones, Biodiversity Act, directly questions were asked, and Global Convention, okay, Paris, COP, UNFCCC, okay, global conventions with respect to environmental protection, okay, climate change, ozone, all this were asked, okay. The historical global conventions were also asked. These were the existing clusters. Now, if you see the post 2020, what are the emerging topics that are focused, if you see, that are in news also in dynamic current markets, current geopolitics, okay, current laws. For example, CLOS, UN Convention on Laws of Seas were asked. Okay, economy linked to environment, lives linked to environment, okay, poverty linked to environment. All these were interlinking topics where environment became cross-disciplinary subject to ask different dimensions. Then sustainable technology, sustainable energy. For example, DAC, direct air capture, biorock, okay, different new technologies, mechanism to protect environment, and new themes, okay, material science, applied science, robotics, AI came into foray. Then you have micro behavioral species traits asked in UPSC. Okay, not just the species habitat, but the micro behavioral themes, like for example, Indian squirrels, marsupials, all these important species which were in news in that year or the previous years were asked with respect to their characteristics, traits. Then you have ESG, okay, environmental, social, governance, disclosure, consciousness, okay, business ethics with respect to ecology, environment are now a focus topics asked in UPSC every year in the last 4 or 5 years. Clear? This is the trend and thematic mapping which we have analyzed, and we are able to see this change happening from very static topics, very direct topics to current topics, applied topics, and analytical topics. So these are the themes. Please go through once. Can pause and go through it once. We'll see the important change of clusters and map the micro topics on this important syllabus themes which we saw in the previous slide. So very quickly we'll see in the biodiversity topic, the flora and the fauna, the micro topic patterns. For example, species interaction. Okay, first one is species interaction with respect to symbiosis. Direct questions were asked with respect to mutualism, competition. However, now linking with species and trying to test the depth of your knowledge, okay, with respect to filter feeders, okay, the mechanism, their characteristics, applications, all are being tested. With respect to retrievers, very simple questions. However, you need to have comprehensive idea, the organisms, their characteristics and behavior. Next, with respect to habitat specific, okay, the characteristics of tropical rainforest, okay, there, and for example, with respect to quick deposition and soil nutrients, okay, leaching question has been asked in UPSC. Not only with respect to one, with respect to savanna, okay, their habitat, their characteristics, question has been asked. With respect to steppe, question has been asked. Okay, biodiversity, their habitat. Then you have behavioral biology. Which are the nocturnal species? Which are the diurnal species? Okay, the species characteristics, their behavior. Okay, that question also has been asked time and again in a different context every year. Then with respect to flora, deciduous trees, evergreen trees, okay, herbs, differences between herbs and shrubs, okay, which are the different varieties, plants. Very simple questions, but we will not focus on those questions where 1 or 2 come up in this themes every year in environment. So make sure you focus on this, you focus on the species, the flora, the fauna, okay, the characteristics, and you'll be able to answer 1-2 questions directly in environment. This is the first important theme. Next, with respect to environmental pollution, okay, and degradation and environmental technologies, we will see advanced chemicals asked every year with respect to pollutions. Bisphenol, okay, PFAS and benzene. Questions have been asked on all the important emerging pollutions, okay, that are in news and that might be banned, okay, banned on environmental laws and conventions. Like for example, Stockholm Convention, right? All the important conventions and the important chemicals that are mentioned in there which are banned have been asked in UPSC time and again. And technologies like carbon sequestration, okay, how can it be done, okay, all the applications, analytical, blue carbon, okay, these concepts are asked again. And energy transition, we are moving towards clean energy, right? So India also wants 50% of its energy to be coming from renewable energy. We have our targets. So and we have our targets for net zero also by 2070, which, okay, timeline or time post might be shifting, but we have net zero target and we have renewable energy targets. And we have new technologies also. For example, distributed energy resources and fuel cells, sustainable aviation fuel. All these are energy transition happening towards newer technology and cleaner technologies. And then we have urban environmental solutions. For example, Miyawaki method was asked, membrane bioreactors for wastewater. All these questions were asked with respect to UPSC PYQs of last 5-6 years. So these are the important themes in the environmental pollution and, okay, new technologies syllabus of UPSC. So it's important you go through this, you map these themes and you study accordingly. Then you have legislation. The important recurring themes are here: Wildlife Protection Act, okay, the core function, Wildlife Protection Act, schedules, protected areas, hunting laws were core focus. Now recent amendments, the changes in schedules have been asked, and Environmental Protection Act 1986, their bodies and their applications. For example, import of GM food, okay, it needs approval or not, GAC approval or not, has been asked. Then Biodiversity Act, its features. Go through the Direct Bear Act and see all the articles, clauses, so that you will have complete clarity here. Access and benefit sharing, linking with international protocols and laws, okay, powers, characteristics, who is the chairman, all these are important. Then all these laws linked to, for example, global law, Net Zero Act, Nature Restoration Law of European Union, okay. All important mainly is European Union with respect to climate change, Global Act, and any global conventions, laws, acts also becomes important linked with environmental laws. So post 2023, we saw elimination has been eliminated, okay, which became the key phrase. Elimination is eliminated. However, all the statements you have to know to answer. If it's a pair question, how to answer then becomes very important. That's where logical deduction, that's where theme-based study, that's where focus study, because 70-80% of the questions are coming from 6-7 themes. That's where focus study becomes in environment. So elimination, now how many of the above format or pairs are correct are there? So you have to know every statement. Logical based selection becomes important. You have to identify statement 1 and 2 or statement 3 statements are given and asking cause-effect relationship. Cause-effect relationship. So you have to be very good in applying the knowledge you have studied, to be analytical, okay, to link the statements. This has to be developed by habit, by doing mocks and by seeing through PYQs. Then focus transition from broad major conventions, static topics to, okay, scientific facts, direct. Okay, direct facts, direct species habitats, their characteristics, which are the herbs, which are the shrubs. The shift, the focus is from fill in the blanks kind of topics to multiple fill in the blanks, you can say, in few of the questions in environment. So you need to have broad memory based understanding, knowledge of few of the direct terms asked in environment, as well as analytical bent of mind. Both are being tested, okay? And the analysis, statement analysis, test specific knowledge and to you to deduce in the statements to get the answer. So traps have been kept. Logically you will be able to answer by the knowledge what you have gained, both factual and conceptual. So what are the few pitfalls that UPSC normally keeps in environment? Fact twisting. Okay. For example, UPSC replaced oceans with rainforest as the largest oxygen resources. If you see, oceans are more than 70%, and land is 28%. Normally, the oxygen produced in the oceans from phytoplankton, okay, and blue-green algae will be more compared to rainforest, and rainforests are carbon neutral. Okay, this is the concept. Then placing, location swapping, species swapping. Okay, all these are important twists and pitfalls kept in UPSC in the PYQs. Then species generalization, like claiming all big cats roar. For example, cheetah do not roar. Some of the exceptions are mentioned. Marsupials thrive only in mountain grasslands where there are no predators. Okay, giving very blanket statements. And every organism has a food chain, food link. Okay, and therefore it except apex predators, every other organisms have other, okay, threats in the environment. That basic concepts have been tested in application questions in UPSC. And basic flora, fauna, their characteristics. Which of the following species require soil to survive, to thrive? These kind of basic questions have been asked, tested, but you need to have wide comprehensive knowledge and analytical bent of mind. This is what is important, crucial for 2026 prelims. So what do you have to do? Do you have to study everything? The complete current affairs 500, 600 page of last 1 year, 2 years? No, that is not how it works. See the themes, see the syllabus themes, see the themes that has been framed through PYQs in the last 5-6 years, and focus only on those topics and those current affairs topics. Link it with the static. Micro topics, move beyond only tiger, elephant to insects, pollinators, okay, biopolymers, where focused important themes that are in news are linked to macro themes and study, link with that. Then current. Deeply follow, just not COP26, where did it happen? Those kind of questions are coming, but what is the question? Okay, what are the important clauses? What are the important articles with respect to, for example, carbon markets? Okay, carbon credits. What are the important articles? Article 6.2, 6.4 asked in 2025 directly. So study the original sources, original text, bare act. Do not just go study summary and go. In the standard books they have given, just summarized all these acts. But when 3-4 questions are coming directly from those acts, go through clause by clause and make note of it. That will help you to have better clarity. For example, Biodiversity Act, Environmental Protection Act, okay, coastal regulation zones, where 1 or 2 questions show up in those themes. Go through, put a little efforts, because you will be able to get definitely those questions right when you know properly the definitions, the bare acts, instead of just studying the summary. So this is the way. Do syllabus mapping, go through the PYQs, make themes where UPSC is asking. If 6-7 themes carry 16 questions, 15-16 questions, then focus on that 5-6 themes, and other peripheral themes you can keep it at the end if you have excess time. Otherwise, if you focus only on these themes, remember the Pareto rule, 80% of the questions comes from this 20-30% of the topics. So let's focus, let's revise well, let's smartly study the environmental subject, and we'll see the important themes in the next coming classes. Till then, revise well, revise other subject, take care, study well, all the best.